Joining me today for an enlightening conversation is Sufi teacher, author and co-founder of Threshold Society and the Baraka Institute, Kabir Helminski. Named as one of the 500 most influential Muslims in the world, Kabir became the first Westerner to be officially recognized as a Sheikh of the Mevlevi order since 1990. Now, the Mevlevi tradition is over 750 years old and traces its inspiration on the teachings of the 13th century Muslim mystic and most popular poet in the world today, Rumi. Now, some of Kabir's books include Living Presence, The Knowing Heart, and Holistic Islam. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tazeen. Very happy to be here.
Kabir, let's begin a little bit about your own personal journey. You were actually born into Christianity, is that right?
Yes, raised as a Catholic.
What was it about your own experience, let's say, as a child into your teenagers, that invoked that initial inquiry to go and search and look?
When I came to Sufism, I heard the saying of the tradition, indeed, in the remembrance of God, hearts find satisfaction. So this is kind of mysterious. What does that mean, remembrance of God? It's an internal experience of presence, of a sense of meaning. In spiritual practice, in many forms of spiritual practice, I feel that people are learning to access something that is very close to themselves, something quite inner and yet real, in some ways more real than the external world.
You'd mentioned presence before. Can we just come back to that? Because I wanted to refer to a quote from Living Presence. In it you share that presence signifies the quality of consciously being here. It is the activation of a higher level of awareness that allows all of our other human functions, such as thought, feeling, and action, to be known, developed, and harmonized. Presence is the way in which we occupy space, as well as how we flow and move. It shapes our self-image and emotional tone. Presence determines the degree of our alertness, openness, and warmth. And it decides whether we leak and scatter our energy or embody and direct it. Can you expand for our viewers?
That's quite a mouthful. I guess I tried to pack a lot into one paragraph, and every sentence, every phrase deserves some unpacking here. But let's see if we can get to the essence. People are so often living just in their thoughts, or in their feelings, or in the cravings and sensations of the body, but rarely all at once. Usually it's this or that. You know, the intellectuals are in their head, and the emotional people are going through either dramas or great joys or whatever. And then there are people who are working out. That's the meaning of life for them, just to get their body in shape, be jogging or working out in the gym. Well, imagine a workout for a quality of awareness that is so comprehensive that it can simultaneously include thinking, feeling, sensation, action, behavior. And it can include all those things because the human consciousness can step behind all of that content and come to a state of presence. It's not unlike what is today called mindfulness or witnessing. Presence is something that every human being can experience, if only momentarily. And if you can experience it for a few moments, you can also develop it. When it's developed, it becomes something more continuous, sustained. It becomes, sometimes we say, you're centered or you're not centered. So to be centered in your heart, by the heart I mean the real center of your being, the real magnetic center of who you are. And from that emanates an awareness of the whole of yourself. And from that state of presence too, you can go inward, you can go very deep, you can go to the source of consciousness in yourself. This may sound far-fetched, It may sound like it's something only for some rare mystic, but I really believe it's for every human being. Rumi says, the only thing worth pursuing is love. And yet love is not caught in any trap of yours. You would be fortunate to find yourself God's prey, to get free of your own traps and fall into His. Love is whispering into my ear. To be a prey is better than to be a hunter. Make yourself my fool. Renounce the high status of the sun and become a speck. Come, dwell at my door and be homeless. Don't pretend to be a candle. Be a moth. So you may taste the savor of life and contemplate the sovereignty hidden in servanthood. What is this? What is he asking of us? All our selfish strategies, including our selfish strategies for self-improvement, are insufficient. At a certain stage of life, they're appropriate. But the absolute surrender and trust in divine guidance, trust in life itself, comes through this making yourself nothing. Everybody wants to be something and someone. That's the, right, isn't that the whole scheme of social media? Yeah. And you're not really becoming someone, you're just creating a virtual someone, an online someone, like with your latest selfie, and look, I just came from whatever, Barcelona, and look at me eating this and all this stuff. Become nothing. But to become nothing is a very high achievement. It's not achieved by people who never attained will. It's not achieved by people who never mastered their own attention. So it is in fact the final stage of human development. It is the highest development of the self, to be able to offer the self to the flow of life, to be a moth circling around that divine candle, the divine light. And I realize that this may just sound like poetry to some. It may be beautiful poetry. One might even listen to it with a degree of skepticism. But I believe Rumi lived this, because I have seen people live this truth and be the better for it. I've seen them lose their fears, lose their neediness, lose their need for self-justification, for outer approval, for security, and just welcome divine guidance and find satisfaction in simple being of presence. It's an art, it's a discipline, it's a joy. The great saints have achieved, and yet someone who attains this doesn't think, oh, now I'm a great saint. The thought doesn't occur.
Thank you so much, Kabir, for joining us today. It certainly has been extremely educational and enlightening. Thank you. And for anyone watching that is interested in learning more about Kabir and his wife Camille's work, please do go to their website, www.sufism.org.